All right, everybody, give me just a second. I'll get this goofy music off.
I kind of dig it.
Me too. Kind of with it. Yeah.
Late night jam. I say late night, but
dude, I'm old. This is totally late night jam.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So we're gonna pick up, and I think we're gonna get into the meat potatoes of this whole
taters.
This whole space shuttle evacuation thing.
Well, you keep saying space shuttle, and I don't want to correct you, but
all right, what do you want to call it?
Well, because it's important. Like the space shuttle itself is a program that's no longer. It's what remember. So the thing that we'd see comes to mind. Okay. The space shuttle was a pretty awesome program, but experienced some significant losses in crew members, and they actually that program is no longer up and running. More so now, they're even with all the major parties involved with the sending people to space now use like this capsule. So think of the shuttle as the living quarters and the thing that got them there all in one. The capsule is not a living quarters. It's tiny. It's just enough to put a crew inside, dock up to the space station, and then they have the space station to live in.
So what what is the proper...
I mean, you could call it whatever you want. I know what you're talking about. On a rocket, yes.
So a space shuttle launched, but a space capsule requires a rocket to launch.
Yes, the space shuttle had the boosters attached to it.
When you explained all this, I imagine like you got pulled into a room with a bunch of like black suit guys.
Negative. I had to figure this out on my own.
They were like, "Hey, we're going to cancel the space shuttle project. We had a really shitty evacuation route.
No.
We're going to make a new project, and we need you to..."
No,
that's not how it works.
No, I'm much more of a peon than that. I don't really get involved in the decision makings for programs, but they need people in those programs, and that's something that
I'm glad I could make you say that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I could make you vulnerable enough to admit that the men in black did not get you to...
Or did they? And I just don't know. They put that little wand in front of your face.
Or did they and you won't tell me?
Would I know?
By the way, quick shout out, Raise Energy Drinks. Raise Energy Drinks, I'm an ambassador for Raise now, and they sent me a couple cases of this stuff, asked me to do a review. I'm not going to do the review yet. I do like this can, but I'm not going to go into like an in-depth review. I've had 3 of the flavors so far. All 3 are good. About a week or so. Good. Gummy worm's good?
Solid.
Does it taste like a gummy worm to you?
Yes. The sour worms.
So Chris Terrio also tasted the gummy worm and he liked it. He tried it not all that cold though. Like I just had the case, went to the tattoo shop and he tried it and he thought it was really good.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Are you allowed to say brands on this?
Yeah, for the most part, you can say anything as long as you're giving them credit and you're not discrediting anybody. In addition to, like, we can actually play music if I give them credit. Here's the thing, though: if this show gets monetized, I then have to pay them a portion.
Sure, royalties with that. Yeah. You have to. Is it predated? Like, could they go back and say, "Oh, you did a show before you were monetized"?
Depends on their publishing label. So it's
contract language.
Yeah,
boring.
It's ridiculous.
It's boring, but it's my life.
So the space capsule.
So
this is what is actually attached to the space station.
Yeah, think of strapping yourself to a rocket, and you're at the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip. That's literally.
I feel like you invited me to that.
I was waiting.
You totally I tried passed. Not to too. I was.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, that it's not going to explode on its way up, and it's gonna launch you out of. We weren't able to go that fast. We wouldn't be able to get to.
So, the capsule goes to the space station. Has it been separated from the rocket? How does it get back?
Gravity. So
the space station is
floating. So it depends. The space station's in so you've got, I say gravity. Seriously?
Is it a movie?
No, it's a real thing. They're
Space trash.
old satellites and rockets.
Yeah.
Well, when they
What
go
are we gonna do
up,
about that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what am I gonna do?
We've managed to fuck up space already.
At least low orbit. Okay. And you can like you can hold it up and it tells you what star is what, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, and I got the 299 app, right?
Wow.
So yeah, I balled out pretty hard on this.
No,
But one thing that it does is it shows you all the space trash.
Did you spend it because you wanted the other premium content, or because you wanted to see space trash?
Space trash was kind of an added bonus. But once I found out it had space trash, that's all I wanted to look at. Is just like hold it up and look at all the shit that's just like debris that's floating in space.
So if we have an app to know where the trash is at,
They can literally log.
why don't we have someone getting the trash?
Because right now I can't answer that question. But right now we were able.
Styrofoam.
Well, yeah. Right, like exactly the plastic bottles.
I see an opportunity right now, dude.
Hey, entrepreneurs that are out there.
I mean, I'm just
gotta-
saying.
well-
I don't know who the guy was that invented the garbage truck.
He was a smart man, though, or was he?
Hell, I don't know.
He had a great idea.
He's probably rich. So there needs to be a garbage truck for space, dude.
Yeah, a dumpster, space dumpster,
That's terrible.
space dumpster. Oh no, let me write that
So-
down.
There's no. Excuse my ignorance.
No,
There is no atmosphere in space, right? Isn't that the
the
term that
premise of so yeah,
so the space trash.
showing trash job
So
in the universe.
Here's my thing: is it aging?
From a deterioration standpoint. Like,
So there's no sun to affect it. It's not. Is it decomposing? Are there bodies in space? No, there shouldn't be.
There could be.
Have
There's
we spaced anybody? Like the shows?
space docking.
No, where you shoot. I mean, I know that's like extreme.
We shoots like a dead person out in space.
Yeah. Is there a body in space?
Supposedly not. Now, I don't. Perhaps they've been lost.
I don't know. We'll have to research that. Well, I'm just wondering.
You got me thinking now.
Who would we even? I need to find out who you would talk to about that, because
I think you would be preserved.
okay.
You could see someone who drowned 100 years ago, and they looked exactly the same that they did. Because of the water. More preserved bodies in Lake Tahoe than supposedly anywhere else in the world.
That's crazy. That's another machine, bro. See, we have a space
I'm gonna
dumpster.
vacuum them up.
Yeah, why not?
Depends on what happened. Is it a Dyson? Solid
Why'd you
vacuum.
do that? Now Dyson's gonna do it. You
Too late.
shit on me just now, dude.
Right? Yeah. I took that out. Yeah. Duct tape and WD-40.
All right, so your job basically is to
Return. Once they return.
Once they return,
Yeah.
do what there was to know about that. Like medically, there's a lot going on there.
That's where I had an advantage.
So you have a team?
Yes, I had
Okay.
a team. So and really, we created myself and kind of my counterpart we were we had a mission in a sense, right? Like we create this team, and here are the development, the process. There was. And here's the thing, like when it came to the space side of anything that I was involved with in the past, I was so limited in my knowledge.
All right.
I knew firefighting, I knew EMS, and I knew auto extrication,
Gotcha.
right? But all of those things of what I was working with engineers on,
Yeah.
right? I'm not an engineer.
Well,
I don't speak engineer language, and I had to learn what the priorities were for engineers and how I needed to take into consideration Because it's the way they analyze data.
Well, you can put 4 engineers in a room, give them a task, they will have 4 different solutions.
Yeah.
And individually, that's the best solution. And then it's a train wreck.
Yeah. It kind of goes along the idea of, in order to fill the gaps.
Were you the leader of the team?
I was a leader as far as the process, because we had created a team. Then we had to figure out, okay, after some training events, who's the leader of these teams?
Gotcha.
Right. So, and then I had to say, okay, here's what I have to work with, which was solid, absolutely solid people. How do we do what's right for the crew?
Gotcha.
Right. Because that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
And then, so that takes like talking to the crew, right?
Yeah.
Getting to know what it's like whenever you return. What capabilities do you have?
So you hung out with astronauts.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I say hang out. I mean, at first, like, I don't really, I'm not like a astronaut geek in a sense where I don't know all of their names and like, but as you meet them, we met one of them that kind of like left a little bit of lasting impression with me, because he was a normal dude.
Yeah.
Okay. He was shit hot. Okay. He knew things as far as his wits and his mental capacity was far greater than mine. But when you talk to him, it didn't come off that way. And he talked about how he drove a minivan, right? Like, he was not someone that was like flashy. He was a very regular dude if you saw him.
Neil Tyson deGrasse.
Yeah.
Yeah, same kind of.
Yeah, you could have a conversation with him that he could speak way over your head. Yeah. However, if he was to talk to you, he would recognize what your aptitude was. Not that you're dumber, but he would talk to you in a way that to where you might be able to comprehend and pick up on. So, for example, I asked the question of like, when you return, what does it feel like? That's a question that. Right? Like, how do you describe that? Right? But so by them saying, it's like drinking a couple shots of whiskey is getting turned around on a mechanical bull.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And taking a couple other shots. Like, so that was relevant to me.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever taken a couple shots and went on a bull.
In Wyoming?
Right. There was a lot of mechanical bulls there. It was the only thing we had to do on Fridays.
Great.
No,
terrible.
So, but like I was able to use the relevance for his description to kind of determine that procedure build out, right?
Yeah.
What needs to be done. And so we came up with the procedure. We tested it. Went back. Made any changes that needed to be changed.
Definitely.
Tested it again, and then we said, hey, we're ready. So when we said we're ready, they put us to exactly that, the test, right? Yeah. So they wanted to see us do that and then look at, how we can, how their input can possibly not change what we're doing, because they never really were dead set on changing anything they did. They were giving us information based on the condition that they were in. So we had full reign. We could have said, we're going to bring a forklift in here. We would have never done this. But we could have told them there was never anything out of the question as far as how we're going to do it, which was kind of cool. Yeah. It was new territory for me.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you hit on that. I can remember a life experience. I was interviewing at Bosch. I once was deciding if I was going to continue like the whole entrepreneurship thing or take a job. I was at Bosch in an interview, and they said, you have a room that is 100 feet wide. You have a machine that is 80 feet wide. There are 10 by 10 doors on the front of this building. There's another building, same size, next to it.
Okay.
We need you to take that machine from one building to the next. How do you do it? Without telling you anything about equipment or anything, they ask you that. So when you were talking about, when you mentioned like have a forklift or whatever, I was thinking about like, how often in life questions like that matter. Because you have obviously made the correct decisions. So when they asked me that, I was like, these dudes are two jackasses. In my head, I was like, I mean, hopefully there's a manual. We'll take the bastard apart, and hopefully you have some
ability to put it
some
back together
cranes and some forklifts,
right?
And then we're going to put it back together the same way it came apart in the next building. Like, that's in my head. But of course, I had to eloquently talk because
they included the doors in there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so, and kind of the right. So we had, I say that we had a wide open, like we had full ability, but we did have parameters that we worked in, of course, because you have to look at the environment. Because, for example, if they would have said that, and by the way, that building is on water, right? You would have had to go totally different, right? Your method for evaluating what you would have done would have probably, the water would have played a factor. So the factors kind of played into the decision making, and similar to how like business works. If you're trying to make a decision that's based or that's going to impact your company, or a decision that's going to is a risk, right? If you don't take into account your environment, then you could be setting yourself up for failure.
Definitely.
But if you only allow your environment to dictate your moves, you could be setting yourself up for failure.
Do you think that there were any decisions made along the way that were incorrect, where you had to, like, it did, and of course things happen and you have to go fix them.
Yeah. Every decision that I made wasn't
you're human.
But every decision that I made that I still stick by to this day. Were implemented, and I had to swallow that, right? Because we are a team.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was leading with this.
Yeah. So some things that I thought were the best case. Right. Just because I'm leading this team doesn't mean I'm not listening to my team.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand that how I see things going isn't the only way to get there.
Certainly.
So I knew, I had to, in some instances, like, take into full account how they said it to me. So if I mentioned one thing and they were very adamant about it, right? Then, because I did what they were doing. Like if we were practicing, we'd go down and practice in facilities that had like a mock-up of this exact mock-up. So if I was going down there and we were doing that, granted, a lot of the time that I spent down there was evaluating the procedures and evaluating the team that's going to be doing this. But I did it. You know what I mean? Just so I can have the relevance and experience to make a decision.
Did you ever have to? Okay, one of your examples was it's like jumping on a mechanical bull, taking a couple shots of whiskey, and jumping on the mechanical bull.
Mm-hmm.
How do you implement processes without feeling what they feel? Like, what did you do to prepare yourself for how they felt?
So it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, where what led me, right? What skills I had to begin with, right? So in the EMS world, when you're doing your initial training, you become pretty good at becoming a victim.
Yeah, that
right.
Makes sense,
because
actually.
you were practicing on each other.
So
and then it doesn't stop at your training because you have continuing education, you have ongoing, right? So really, you become better at it because you get more bored with it. So it becomes this like fun thing, right? And there's always like the one jerk who like gives you no leeway. He's literally like dead weight, and you have to carry him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's not like giving you any type of like assistance at all. Always that one guy. But for the most part, we used each other.
Yeah.
And we kind of set levels. We'd say, okay, you have no ability.
Sure. You
have some ability.
Okay.
And you are while not full ability, you can help us out. So that's kind of how because we wanted to be prepared for someone who could help us kind of get to a position maybe. And then because when they come back, they're sitting in a very awkward position that's not like a car.
Yeah.
right?
So they're not prone.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your team also worked for the aerospace company you work for, or did you?
Yes.
So you didn't have to outsource anyone.
No.
So these are all civilians.
Firefighters.
Civilians.
They're all firefighters.
Okay, so they're all firefighters.
All of them.
Shut up.
All of them. So they came in with the same, well, I say the same. We have a very diverse team when it comes down to like the training and experience that they receive, because they're not just from one area.
Yeah.
Right. They're from 5 different cities from all over the U.S.
Are they the team? Was there intentionally a mix of?
Yes.
Okay.
Any
So
mix you could think of. Old,
I would
young,
assume-
female, male,
Yeah,
black,
exactly.
white.
That's what I would think.
Yes.
Because reality of things is that the average African American male and the average Asian male have different bone structures.
Now, and I think the decision for diversity that was built with the team wasn't based
And
on
the
that
male-female
factor
as well.
But you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
it does
so-
play. It is another advantage
Yeah.
of that, right?
Because
That-
you would definitely want to, from the way I'm thinking about it, is you would definitely want to have as much case study as possible before you say this is the process that we're going to implement.
Yeah. Especially before you're tested on it, because you don't want to look like
Yeah.
jerks.
Well, here's the deal. I think the easiest way to not turn this into something that's extremely complicated is Toyotas weren't made to be worked on by Shaquille O'Neal.
Right. So you're exactly right. So like what I said, when we were
Like a
building,
Nordic man.
yeah, you're right. So
would
and
struggle to work on a Mitsubishi.
And we had to take that in consideration when we assigned positions on this team, because 2 people were going in. Right? 2 people were the ones that were actually going to be entering into to help this extrication.
Yeah.
And then we had some people on the outside as well who would be the handoff.
Okay.
And then we had a leader of that team as well. So there wasn't like criteria for who
Oh,
this
yeah. I mean, that's...
person going in is, but it usually, like, right, it's the same in the fire department. Whenever there's a attic space, right, or a crawl space,
Yeah, you're not going to send me into an attic.
you look around, and normally, the smallest guy already knows it's him,
Definitely.
and he's going, God,
Yeah,
here I go, I'll go.
Yeah,
there.
I'd be much more likely to break a door than I would be to get an
Yeah,
attic.
absolutely.
Certainly. Yeah. So I guess something that I'm curious about is, did any of you have to do any of the cool space testing that astronauts do?
No.
Sucks, man. That would have been an awesome experience.
Well, it's not over yet.
Sweet.
I mean, you never know what's. I don't. So we got to see some really cool things that they do train on, like the MBL, the non-buoyancy lab. So
I would have totally been like, we have to all do this.
huge
Every one of
giant
us.
swimming pool.
We all have to do this.
I mean, it would have been really cool, but
yeah.
I mean,
Open checkbook, baby. Let's go.
yeah, that was all it came down to, right? Time and money.
I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
Well, and it's access to, like, we had a really good insider that showed us around the facility, and we were able to get
I understand.
no, I mean legally, like we didn't do anything wrong. This guy he was an employee, and but he showed us
could have
around.
not done that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gotcha. The dude's probably a cool guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
you want to talk about stories?
Dope.
So, and this dude has the guy I'm thinking of. He's got a Morgan Freeman style voice. So
Has he been in space?
No. Very few people
But
have.
he knows about space.
He's been involved in space flights for the good and the bad for a lot of years.
So
a lot of years.
we could have an episode where maybe we got like a Skype call. Maybe just a telephone call where face isn't involved.
I can ask him.
That would be dope.
I can ask him.
Would be dope, dude.
I mean, he's the.
Well, so here's
World's
the thing.
most interesting man.
If we just do phone call, it's not a lot of risk
So
there.
he lives in Oregon now, but I can always,
Yeah, whatever, dude.
yeah, I can ask him.
Let's meat some potatoes.
He's an older man, so he might have like a 7 p.m. bedtime, but
Whatever, dude.
you catch him before then.
It would be worth it. Whatever needed to happen to have that.
I've asked him some pretty interesting, some pretty upfront, blunt questions of things that just pondered my head.
Did he lay it on thick?
I mean,
Can you talk about any of it?
well, I think we're firefighters, so
Yeah.
we always kind of go to these weird places in our mind about like, has anybody ever had sex in space?
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
And he's like, well, the rumor mill is. He's one of the like. So there's no study that they did to have like, oh yeah, it's in this document to show, right? But
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, the Russians. Like he gets some pretty cool stories.
How badass would it be, dude, to be a Russian space baby? A buddy of mine.
Superman, isn't that Superman?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe whatever. A buddy of mine actually just got deported a couple months ago. It really sucks, but he worked on a project called ExoMars, and he helped develop the guidance system on ExoMars.
Very cool.
He's Russian. Came here.
You told me about that.
Yeah, I hired him. I hired him. He worked for me for a little while.
You told me he was like a computer genius, basically, right? Yeah.
He actually put a phone screen on for Johnny.
Ah.
Yeah, dude's absolutely. He was
His
collecting.
work visa run out?
His
Work visa run out?
Yeah, the girl. So he and his wife were married in Russia. So it wasn't one of those weird.
Yeah. Shout out to what's his name? What can you say? No, never mind. No name dropping. He knows who he is.
Well, my only fear is he's trying to come back to America.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And they actually dug deep. Like they called me and stuff and asked me questions about his marriage and stuff and things I honestly had no clue about.
Right,
I don't
right.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell this dude does at home.
Right?
Like, but he was collecting broken PlayStations and Xboxes and like would fix them and like
Resell?
Yeah,
Yeah. Hustle, baby.
yeah. This dude
The grind.
when so he and the wife had a thing or whatever happened, and that kind of killed the whole deal because she had her mom was here and a citizen, so she gained citizenship.
But he didn't.
While she was in Russia, they were married. So he came here and was doing that whole thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he it was crazy to talk to him about the space program in Russia because he worked on that project while attending the university, like he was there in college. And the whole team that worked on the project were all at the university, and it was actually like it was basically their class project.
Wow.
Yeah, so Russia implemented the class project of a university
Right.
on ExoMars. I mean, of course they tested it, but it's crazy to think about that. He
Yeah.
didn't get paid,
Yeah.
nor credited.
Free labor, baby.
Yeah, did not get credited.
Free labor.
But he had evidence.
Well,
That's as far as I can talk about that. But
colleges do
he
that
could
now,
prove it.
though.
He could prove it though. Like
They have- He could prove.
that he worked on the project.
Oh, okay.
He could recreate what he used on it. He could take a DJI drone, put a SIM card on it, and fly it to New Mexico if the battery would last.
Oh, that's cool.
He could fly it as far as the battery would last. So his money was not as long as his knowledge. But this dude, could he create a good enough battery pack to have propulsion? He could have droned anywhere.
That's pretty rad.
And he could build boards from nothing. I'm talking like you have a breadboard and a handful of parts,
Right.
and he could develop and program
That's impressive.
a damn drone.
Yeah.
To do. Yeah.
That stuff's always.
Dude's like 24.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. So there, the education and stuff it's different.
When you look at like I said, the Soyuz capsule. So I've been inside of a complete mock-up.
Okay.
That's as identical as you're going to get as far as a mock-up goes,
Sure.
without going inside the actual capsule. And it's like stepping into an episode of 80s Star Trek. Everything looks
what you'd
antiquated,
expect.
right? But it seems like their philosophy is if it's not broke, why do we
Yeah.
fix it? So it continued to work, right? But it wasn't pretty, right?
Yeah.
It was the idea of what we were talking about earlier. They still had the room full of equipment
Yeah.
versus going to this. Doesn't mean that technologically they couldn't.
Yeah.
It was why.
Well, so this is something that I've experienced. Actually, just having fun with trucks and stuff and building trucks. A micro switch hooked to a like a relay, and where you're like creating resistance and things. Every circuit that you've created, one, you have more resistance, but two, you're creating heat. The more heat that you create, the more issues you have. So I find it very possible that they probably did that from a efficiency standpoint.
Yeah.
A small computer, it is very hard to make a small computer as efficient as a large computer. The fact that our phones today can do what they do is a mind blower.
And so that makes total sense to me as far as why, but what if it's just okay? The U.S. spent, I don't know what the dollar amount is, but it's a crazy dollar amount
Yeah.
on developing a pen that worked in space. What did the Russians do? They used a pencil.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
If it's so, the premises of why really means something to that culture. To if it's not needed, it can continue as is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so when you stepped inside, now you've got into one of these newer capsules, whatnot. It's space age, right? It looks like something from the future, but they're not.
What is their fail rate, though? It's undetermined.
No, it's U.S.
Speculative.
U.S. astronauts get on those flights often,
Okay.
right? We were paying $80 million a seat to fly an American astronaut because that's all we had.
Yeah.
Before the U.S. had some ability.
Okay.
So we were using the Russian as a taxi.
So, what's next?
What's next as far as where are we going? Or me?
Where are you? So here's the thing: you've accomplished your task.
Yeah.
Have you been presented with a new task? And I'm not asking you to talk about it if you can't.
No. In the space area?
Yeah.
Well, so in reality, so I did have I took another chance after developing those procedures for the team that was extricating.
Okay.
There was another area where they needed someone to develop some procedures that really tied in line to my career field in firefighting. Okay. And they had someone in that position who wasn't able to fulfill it long term. So, and it had to do with like the hazardous environment initially. So the first people that go up to this capsule after it's on the on the Earth's surface, developing procedures for them to do that with taking consideration of what could be off-gassing.
Yeah.
Right, which is not fun stuff.
Yeah. This.
There's stuff that needs to burn in an atmosphere with no oxygen.
Yeah, I got you. Right. Yeah, so I guess my interpretation of that is that we've sent something somewhere and brought back whatever. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, there are likely elements and gases and toxins and things that we don't even know exist.
Yeah, and more so from like the commodities on the capsule itself. So
Gotcha.
in order to propel, right?
Okay.
So if you're traveling at 16,000 miles an hour, right, and then you're about to breach into the atmosphere, you need to slow down,
Yeah.
right? So they'll actually use thrust
Gotcha.
to slow. So that thrust requires gas.
What is the fuel? What fuel are they
So,
using?
So the hydrazine is a very common gas used in
Hydrazine.
yep.
Okay.
It's a very common propellant used in like space flight.
Do you know a good bit about that?
Yeah, I
Its
mean,
flashpoint and
I've
stuff? I'm just
man.
thinking-
Well, the reason I said ooh is because I actually just had like the MSD up, so that's a lot of what I deal with.
MSDS and stuff.
Well, the SDSs of the commodities, and then tying it into how we respond to that.
So a lot of people aren't going to know what that is.
The safety data sheet. So
yeah.
it tells you all of the flammability, the combustibility,
Yeah.
the hazards.
And when I said MSDS, just add material in front of it.
Yeah.
It's just
And that's
everything that's in it.
everything for some reason. I don't, and it makes no sense to me. They got rid of the M, but I still call it. I still refer to it as MSDS as well.
Yeah.
But
if it's got 16 drops of water, they have to say it's got 16 drops
Exactly.
of water. And that water is both hydrogen and oxygen. It's the so on one hand, sometimes it seems a little excessive, but
it tells you what you need to know.
yeah, I'm sure there have been
Right.
times where some really smart person has said, "Oh, right here, this
Yeah.
is where this went wrong."
Yeah, and I can't, but then again, going back, it tied right into what I did in the Air Force
Sweet.
because F-16s or F-15s, which when I was in Elmendorf, they had a couple squadrons of carried hydrazine. Right, so I learned how to respond to an F-16.
Did they find that on your resume? Or
No.
Did they say, "Hey, we need someone that knows this"?
No, it was by chance.
Chance. No way, dude.
I'm telling you, opportunity is okay, so I guess my point of saying opportunity is this. Normally, even if it's not consciously, you are attracted to things that for some reason the attraction comes from something and then once you're in it, once you put the toe in the water,
Yeah.
right, and trust yourself a little bit to get there, that's when the things start coming down to, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
And I know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Right. So because that's what led you there to begin with.
Yeah, the other day, I was telling a buddy of mine, he was listening to a song that was just, in my opinion, ridiculous. And every time he gets in my truck, he's like, "What are you listening to?" I'm always listening to a podcast, talk radio, or an audio.
Right.
So the last time he got in my truck, I'm literally listening to a book about Sikhism. Just because
because.
Yeah. It's like, this is why every time we talk about something, I have some form of answer, and why you have no clue what's going on.
Right. You want to stay in your world. You want to stay in what your comfort zone is.
If you continue to ingest,
garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
And it's not, and it's the same thing with the opportunity road where, there's some people that I work with where they'll be in the same position and I have zero hate towards them because of this for 30 years. They're happy with where they're at. They've reached where they say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm good where I'm at. And I'm from an entrepreneur like yourself, difficult to do that.
Yeah. Never,
but I know that for me personally, I couldn't do that. I always feel the need to expand, grow, get outside my comfort zone.
Something that I wish that there were more of, and there's not, is for aerospace companies and just companies in general that have large tasks. I feel like people like me could offer a lot to companies like that, but they don't have a lot of things in place to offer that. Like I would be willing to bet that you at some point had a task where you knew a person and you were like, this person is best for this task.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't call that person. Imagine if these aerospace companies would allow someone in your position to say, "Hey, I got a guy for this. We can contract him."
We do. So I'll give you an example. If say a capsule came down,
yeah,
and it in design, it lands on like say an airbag system.
Sure.
Okay, and it's parachutes slow the speed down, right? Bags inflate, perfect landing. If it does not, let's say the parachutes come out perfectly, the airbags come out perfectly. When it lands, it does some kind of bounce or roll, and it's inverted or on its side.
Yeah.
Something has to be done, and you're dealing with something that's round.
Definitely.
Usually on a flat surface. Mm-hmm. Or even in some instances, water. Right? Take the dry land area, for example, though. You need something that stabilizes.
Sure.
Right? So we looked at what can we do to stabilize this thing. Well, guess what? Vehicle accidents.
Yep.
Right? A car tips over on its side.
Yep.
They get there. They can't operate around that vehicle until that vehicle has been stabilized.
Yep.
So who do I call? I call the manufacturer of the stabilization company, the people that make equipment for that.
Definitely.
Because that, like you said, man,
yeah,
I know this stuff works. Right? I'm going back to my experiences.
Sure.
If I wasn't there, somebody else could have easily said, from my experiences, this would work. If no one that has the experiences there, that's whenever the headache is caused, because now you're trying to think that you don't even know that it's out there, and to your point, right? Like, so there's people that do a lot of really cool stuff that's not known, right? And they think that, so they spend the time and the money and the effort trying to create something that already somebody is looking, been doing for years. And, the amount of times that happens in big business, if we were to look, if we had the opportunity to look at, because the business, now granted, the business that we use, the company that we use is not a small company, but on a grand scale, right? Like, they are relevant because they have a very niche.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? They're trying to do.
Yeah, they can only be so big.
Right, and they they deal nationally and whatnot, but internationally, but still, they're niched.
Sure.
A lot of those niches are missed, and they're not known. And I feel like everybody knows these big companies. Everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So, the idea that we can utilize local talent in a sense, right?
Sure.
Like people that do things that might not be on a grand scale right now, but they're one away. They're somebody needing them in a sense, right? Like it's one project away of someone saying, "Man, I could use this. Where can I find it?" If there was like a directory, right? If there was something where we could.
I think that large companies, if
they don't want that,
have a lot of resources. I think that there are a lot of situations where if one of these companies could literally just have me and my contacts and be able to say, "Hey, I need a guy for this," I'd be like, "Okay, cool. Boop. Here's a guy for that."
Right.
Like, it would change everything. Like,
Yeah.
And what sucks is oftentimes I think that there are projects that lack luster because companies can't reach out to people that have genius because they have to work with the staff that they have.
Yeah.
I think that was the I could
No, yeah, I get where you're coming from.
So I was curious.
Or they're operating in a budget or something like
Yeah.
that, and it doesn't include reaching outside.
So I was just curious in your situation because for you, I'm sure that you have had chiefs in the past that probably have knowledge on different things, and I'm sure there have been times where you're like, man,
oh yeah, that person,
yeah, this dude,
specifically,
he would know exactly how to take care of this.
And those are that's my network, right?
Yeah.
So like, and you know, granted, it seems like when you're at work, you try to think of the names that are your work counterparts first. I guess those are the first names to come, right? Like, who can I call? That's right. That's that would know this answer. But there's a lot of times where there's a better option as far as the expertise goes.
Yeah.
The knowledge goes, and
sure.
If I need to know something about wood, who am I calling?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
Johnny, yeah.
There's nobody
definitely.
like, I don't care if I'm working on a wood project in my house.
Yeah.
Or if I'm, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter where I'm at. If I need to know something about it, I know I got, like you said, I got the contact. I can say, dude, and get the answer I'm looking for.
So something just came to mind, and this is what is the worst case scenario? So let's say, just right from the beginning, the capsule has landed.
Okay.
And we'll just say that it's permanent.
Okay.
We're going to skip the whole.
Yeah.
Are we prepared, or do we have a process in place for gases that we currently are not familiar with, or accelerants?
I mean, so
changed? So
we know what's on it, what it's coming back with. So
assumed.
Well, as long as it's not carrying anything.
So hydrazine.
We know hydrazine.
And
we're prepared for that.
Hydrazine. Okay. You're prepared for a lot of things in general. Let's say a really good example would be an atomic bomb. Really good example. Completely harmless without a catalyst. Does hydrazine have a catalyst? What catalyst can be introduced, and what is out there that we don't know is out there? And
I don't know, because I don't know if there's anything like just floating around in space that would, right, like that could attach to.
So we don't currently, to the best of your knowledge, we assume that it's safe because we've been out enough, obviously.
Not that hydrazine is safe.
Well, so that the atmosphere or lack thereof
is not going to include anything other than what it's left with.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that answers that for me, because in my head, because I'm unfamiliar with space, in my head, there are just gases out there.
And you got to understand something too. Like, I've been in the firefighting game a long time. I have not been in the space game a long time. So the fact that asking a question.
Yeah.
If I haven't thought about it, I've asked it. Right? Like,
yeah.
I watched a couple space documentaries.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the extent before they asked me to be a part of this. So it wasn't like they were looking at me going like, we need Dan.
Yeah.
It was like, we have an opportunity for somebody here that needs to do these things. They didn't even use the word opportunity. I plug in opportunity every chance I get.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So I saw that statement of work that needed to be accomplished, and I evaluated myself.
Yeah.
And even if sometimes I'm not even like, I got it. That's me. Easy. Some of the things that I come across that I'm asked to do, I'm exactly that, right? Like, that's no problem. Not a problem. I got that.
Sure.
Some things, it's like, whew. You gotta read it a couple times, right? It's like, I don't know what that word is.
I'm sure.
Right. So there's, you have to break it down, and then you have to make a decision. Like you said.
Yeah.
Is there somebody better for the job than me? And if that, am I going to turn down the opportunity to allow that to happen? To give this to somebody else. And there have been times where for the betterment of a team, I did say, hey, as much as I appreciate it, I'm going to reach out to somebody that I know, and say, see if they're able to do it, because this is right up their alley.
Definitely, that's admirable.
Yeah, I mean, because I like success.
Definitely,
I hate failure. I hate failure. I don't hate failing. I should be clear about that. I'll fail all day.
So, there is no success in this world without failure.
Yeah, no.
So,
not a chance.
All right, so at this point, we've reached the capsule. We've assumed, based on what we know up to this point, that there are no additional gases.
And that comes through the procedures that I created to ensure that, right? So we have a team that goes in and they do a safety
PPE.
assessment. Yes, hazmat suit.
What do you PPE? So we're just using
SCBA.
What?
Same packs that we use in the fire department.
Okay.
Air packs.
Cool. Yeah, right on. Well, hell, I mean, if it's safe for a...
We deal with hazmat in the fire, what I mean?
I would feel like there's probably more of a likelihood that you're going to run into a hazardous gas in a hospital fire or in a medical facility fire.
Or a garage.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, right. Because...
ammunition.
These
right, not just gases.
Well, yeah. So you said a garage. That is something to think about. That's crazy, because there are a lot of
home
these
shops.
companies make this stuff. When they're developing it, don't get me wrong, their MSDS is for everything, but they don't develop it thinking is when this garage catches on fire, what is it, noxious? Is that the word? What's the word where if you inhale it, it would kill you? Toxic is just, but there's...
No, toxic's a good word for that. A toxic chemical or a toxic gas or...
So, when I think of spaceman, I really just think that there's just, like, random, like, blobs of, like, fucking acid jelly floating out there, Like, I don't know why I think that, just because...
You should be more concerned about space trash.
I watch way too much Rick and Morty, dude. I'm sorry I went there, but I did. So now I'm just like,
I've never watched that show. Do I need to? My sister loves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
it's freaking hilarious. So here's the issue. One of the writers apparently had some sort of pedophilia thing pop up.
Oh.
I don't think that it was actually pedophilia. I don't know.
Right.
100%. I didn't look into it enough.
But it was enough to cancel them or something?
I think he had an illustration of some sort. I don't think, like, the dude is, like...
He wasn't on Epstein Island.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not, like, whacking off the kids or nothing. Like, I think he did an illustration that was, like,
I think I might have heard about that.
All right. Anyway, Rick and Morty, completely hilarious.
Okay.
So, I mean, the dude might be a pedophile. I don't know. Right. I'm completely... Just like...
You're talking about the show, not the creators.
I was not going to take the time to read tabloids to learn about this poor bastard. I don't care. I'd already watched a couple episodes. I was like, I love these episodes.
Right.
Like, seriously, like the whole Epstein thing. I'm not going to, tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, Outcast sucks, and I'm not going to watch Forrest Gump because some dude on the internet said that Forrest
Outcast?
Gump... not Outcast. Is it... what is the Forrest Gump? Or the Hank...
Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks. What's the Tom Hanks movie? Castaway.
Yeah,
I'm not going to stop watching
I was like,
Castaway.
Outcast?
No, not Outcast. No, Andre 3000 is the man.
Don't make me
I'm not going to stop watching Castaway and Forrest Gump because someone said that...
Yeah, totally.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
It doesn't mean you're
I subscribe to some of those thoughts.
Yeah.
But there was not enough evidence in this particular case for me to dismiss the
Yeah,
show.
I got what you're saying.
But it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Right. And it's full of things. It's like The Simpsons, but definitely a lot more harsh.
Right.
Like, it's rough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
So watching stuff like that, admitting that moments after saying I don't ingest junk is kind of funny, actually, that I've... Maybe, like...
I mean, everybody needs a little junk food, right? I have my...
We just had pizza.
My vice. Yeah, exactly.
Stoner's Pizza.
I mean, I
Shout out to Stoner's Pizza.
Dude, I need to come back to West Ashley, by the way.
The flap on the thing says legalized marinara. I thought it said legalized marijuana. And I told him, I was like, dude, can you believe the box says legalized marijuana? And he was like, it says marinara.
But like, it's subliminal, though. It's subliminal.
Yeah, whatever.
It's telling you.
Hashtag.
Right. I'm going to use that. Legalized
marinara. All right, you've now reached the capsule that's not a space shuttle.
So worst case scenario. That's where you were going, right?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is there's a leak.
The training... Did you work on the people approaching the capsule? Yes. Or did you work on the people inside the capsule, exiting the capsule, or both?
I worked on getting people out.
Did you work on the people being trained to get out?
Worked with them.
Okay.
So explained our process to them.
So your part of this is from a firefighter's perspective. Get the person out. Because effectively, they've caught on fire while flying out of the sky.
And not only catching on fire, but like that's not a major concern because there's limited.
That's funny.
I mean, that would be a wild ride. Well, it obviously it's a major, but it's a low probability.
Yeah.
Because the combustibility, like what's combustible inside, and your ignition sources are very limited inside. Okay. But it doesn't mean that they couldn't have a medical issue.
Gotcha.
Right? Or a traumatic, like if it lands hard, right? You've got internal bleeding of some sort.
Gotcha.
So we had to, we did look at from an expedient standpoint.
Sure.
If some, like you said, worst case scenario, unconscious, unresponsive. What are we gonna do? Like that to me. I hit that before I hit what are we going to do normal.
Gotcha.
Because, right? Like if I can figure out what to do in the worst case scenario, then figuring it out in the easiest case scenario is easy.
Coming from a firefighter's perspective, you've probably been trained on loss of life a lot more than the average person who is in these situations. Because
yes, so a lot of the team,
a
lot of the team that we work with are non-fire.
People die in car crashes like almost more than
like
I don't know. I'm sure.
Well, you see the sign on the road all the time, right? Yeah. This many people died in South Carolina this year.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's
and every time I see that number, especially later in the year, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Stop texting and driving. I've been working on that a lot.
Yeah. I had to for my kids because they see me and now they're driving.
I not endorsed at all, by the way. It's called rock form. It's got like these really heavy duty magnets on the back.
Keep it away from you.
Yep. Because if it's not next to me, I can't pick it up.
My son has one that kind of goes up by his radio.
Yep, that's exactly what this does. So it's got a really heavy magnet.
I notice when I use it, I might change my song, but I'm not. I thought I felt something vibrate. Right?
Yep, exactly.
Like pick it up, right? Mm-hmm. So that's
Keep getting it away from yourself is the best thing. Best thing that I have found for me, and Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
It makes it where I don't touch, and I've made myself get into the habit of hitting the button. So, but anyway, that's off track.
Stay alive.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, live to see tomorrow. So the hatch, proper term?
Yep.
Okay.
Nailed it
on the space capsule. The space capsule hatch. So I would think that they've probably spent a lot of time making it where this thing won't depressurize. So I'm thinking about like that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Totally.
That's where like the eyes come out the head.
Total Recall.
Is that a real thing?
If you're in space, yeah. But you can't. You wouldn't have the same effect here, but you have to go through that.
Well, yeah. So the capsule came from space.
Yes.
Okay. So I would think that one of the worst things that could happen is
depressurization.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's probably death.
Fair, yeah. Unless you can fix the problem, and it also depends on the size of. So you have a pressurized, just like aircraft a commercial aircraft.
Yep.
You know, that to get the ear popping and everything. That cabin is pressurizing.
Yep.
And so you have a very similar thing with that to allow positive pressure, right? So things are being pushed out onto the skin to not allow things to be able to come in.
Okay.
But space is not like here, right? Space is a vacuum. So
it's hard for me to
understand what it means to.
So
if I dropped a cannonball or a bowling ball and a feather in space, they would fall at the equals. They would literally.
Yeah, I've seen that. Is it our atmosphere? Is it the ionosphere? Is that what is the outermost shell that we consider to be our atmosphere?
Is it stratosphere?
Either way, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly.
Is that where? So when it's entering that.
You don't have a big concern about the same reason you don't have a big concern about opening an airplane door.
Okay.
Because once you get to a certain point, the pressure on like being able to get a door open, right, and pushing it out whenever something is traveling, right, and so you're getting resistance going to the inside. It's pushing.
Safe to assume these are all outswing for that purpose.
Well, yeah, and really, with like a hatch door, like the hatch door, it requires a special tool to open it.
Okay.
That's right. So it's like dual lock. It's got these over the top safety. No, I say over the top.
Well, so because I don't know about this, I'm thinking what everyone else is thinking. There's
An airplane
like a
door or something.
Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's actually almost more simplistic than that. It's like a T handle that you like a water tool.
Sure.
Like water shut off, right? It's like right, and then you turn it. You have to do it in a certain procedure.
In my head, I hear clunk, 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 clunk.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Right.
And
you yell the secret password.
Yep. Open Sesame.
Right.
Yeah. Never forget.
Oh, man. Little Never Rascals.
Forget. Yeah.
Solid flick.
He-Man
Motivator Club. Right.
What's the password?
What's the password? Froggy?
Yeah.
Solid reference.
Yeah, I did that. So that was nice. All right, so you reached this thing. Is there a plan? If it's
bad news?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I guess it was bad.
Well, if
call a meat wagon. I mean, not to be,
yeah, insensitive, but I mean, there's certain things that are out of your control.
Man, if you saw space and you wanted to be an astronaut and then you died on the way back,
God,
as long as it wasn't like a bunch of pain or whatever, like it's horrible for your family and everything. But dude, you saw space, bro.
Oh man, I would love to do that. Yeah. My wife asks me all the time, "Would you ever go to space?"
Yeah.
I worked with in this same program. I worked. I still currently do work with people alongside people that I had no clue what they did. Okay, so
that's cool.
Months and months and months and a year, 2 years go by, and I'm working alongside, and specifically this one person. And I asked her one day. Her name, I'm not gonna say her name, but I was like, "What do you want to do? Like, whenever what is your goal?" I guess she's like, "I want to. I want to be an astronaut." So I would have I want to say normal people. She very, very brilliant person. But they're not just chasing this dream by chasing being an astronaut.
Yeah.
They're doing the things that they need to do in order to set them up to be an astronaut. Right? Like,
I gotcha.
so they, you can't, it's hard to just volunteer. It's the same thing with business sometimes, where you just say, I think I'm going to start up a company to do this. If you, without putting some legwork in, or getting something that you're involved with previously, it's probably much more difficult than just raise my hand and say, I want to be an astronaut, right? I'm going to apply. What credentials do you have that allows you to be successful whenever you do get accepted? That's what they look for if you want to be an astronaut.
Yeah, definitely. I should have started 10 years ago.
I think you'd be a good candidate today.
I would be the biggest astronaut ever, and they would tell me...
There's got to be one.
They'd be like, dude, you need to lose 200 pounds. We don't make suits this big. We're going to start right there.
Oh, if
that would be what it would be. Luckily, me and you would fall same speed, though, so if anything went wrong, where are you going to go?
Exactly.
I'm glad that happened.
That's a wild
idea. Me and you would fall the same speed. Yeah, I would
totally... Just anything.
Yeah.
I mean...
I would have a lot of fun with that.
Space scares the shit out of me. What scares you more, space or like the depths of the ocean? What?
The depths of the ocean.
Ocean?
Let me tell you why. When I think of space, although I do think that there are things out there, I think they're so far out that we won't see them in my lifetime. I hope that we do. When I think ocean, I think predator. Just because...
Yeah.
And the deeper you get, the worse it'll get.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that we've never been to the bottom.
Think about this exact opposite. So things up are vacuum, things down are pressure. It's kind of crazy to think about.
But
it's cold.
Here's what's crazy is the astronauts train underwater to get ready for space. In giant pools.
Because of lack of gravity?
So they have these giant pools that they... Now that's for that's for their space walks.
Yeah.
Okay, that's whenever they put that giant suit on and they're actually outside of the space station.
So how long have they been in space when they come back?
Very dependent. So some missions last a couple weeks. Some last... I don't know the long... I know one of the Russian astronauts was... I think he did like 450 days or something like consecutive.
I know there's like there's some sort of an award or recognition if you're there for 100 days.
Like 100 days is kind of like the milestone that everybody
That's cool.
looks for.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Going up and seeing it and getting that, like, I say bird's eye view, but you're really getting more than that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Would be awesome. But, man, the lack of what I feel like I need as far as, like, family and you know what I mean, it would break me. I don't know. But I've been deployed, right? So
yeah,
I've had an opportunity to spend some time a long way away from home, and Skype Skype wasn't even invented. It was landline phones, but still, they did have some like video services and stuff. But that would be.
Buddy Billy called me on a sat phone.
Sat phone.
It was pretty crazy the amount of time that it would take.
Yeah, relay a message.
Because he'd be like, "Hey, buddy, how are you doing?"
Right.
When I heard that and I would respond, it would be like 7 or 8 seconds.
And then you start getting on top of each other because you did. Yeah.
Well, I got after the first call. After that, I knew if he called me, that I needed to take the time between the moments to kind of
give him the
So, what can I do to make that more comfortable?
Nothing.
Oh,
it's me. It's old age.
Oh, you're not that old, bro.
37.
You're still a young man.
Appreciate that. That's because you're just a couple years behind. You're trying to tell yourself the same thing.
No, dude, you're still young, man.
I feel like I got a little bit of youth left in me.
Yeah, definitely. So when, let's say, well, there's going to be different periods of time. Is the SOP or is the standard operating procedure the same for someone that's been up for 90 days as they have been for 180 days?
Yeah, we consider it to be, we run it the same.
Okay.
And a lot of this has to do with...
So I imagine you run them worse. Like they've been up there 450 days. Or whatever it is.
Yeah, the procedure doesn't change. How we maneuver might change. Right? So we because the good thing about it, everything that's normal, we have to include communication, right? So we're going to be talking to the crew, right? We're going to say, hey, how you feeling? Do you need a second? Right? It doesn't have to be this fast process unless it needs to be a fast process.
Well, it's not going to be on fire.
Exactly. So, as long as everything is good to go, we can kind of...
Well, so if you treat 20 days the same as 200 days,
they might say
you're just being more delicate with someone.
Well, and if we're talking to them, they might say, "Hey guys, I'm good." Not like I'm good, like we were just gonna like stand back, but all right, like let's.
So you did EMS stuff?
Oh yeah.
So I imagine you kind of treat this similar to like a concussion, and I don't mean that. I mean just in general, how if
you evaluate.
Yeah, so I remember like football. I got popped really hard one time,
and they asked
questions. Out. They put the ammonia.
Yep.
And when you come in, the first thing they ask you, is like, what's your name?
Yep.
So I imagine, is it similar to that?
We don't have.
I mean, not that, but just.
I mean, I think that we do have we have the ability to question their level of consciousness if we see something wrong.
Sure.
Right, so we can kind of give them that rundown, and you're talking about astronauts, like these guys.
Yeah, these are intelligent.
Well, they're the best of the best. So if something is wrong,
they're probably going to indicate.
So we've heard a couple different things. We've heard they're very prideful people, and they're going to feel like they can do things that they actually can't do. So basically, what that means is stay really close, even if they say they can do something.
Yeah, right. I'm fine.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, they're all Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and I mean I say all, but you know how that works. Like maybe a majority or something. But this is stuff. This is all stuff that really, we're not like waiting to prove, but it's stuff that's like coming to, like we're about to see.
Well, I'm here to tell you, buddy. I don't know why I feel like the astronauts are like the greatest.
Dude,
I think it's because space exploration is so huge to me.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
But I seriously, like, if an astronaut told me a chicken can pull the train, I'm not asking questions.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, saddle that bastard up, let's go. Right. Choo-choo.
What planet can that happen?
Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, it's going to be a funky chicken.
So, yeah, man, this was a good time. I've got to do this again. I do want to. This is interesting. This is something I never thought.
Yeah.
I'd like get a chance to be on a legit podcast with someone that I know so well.
Yeah, it's dope.
So pretty cool.
So, in wrapping things up, is there anything that that we can hint to that is like super cool and upcoming in aerospace?
Ooh. When you're talking about space,
yeah. Is it?
I mean, I think that there's nothing that I know that that isn't public.
Okay.
So I don't really have, of course you've got your like people that are in some programs that might say like, oh, this is a cool thing. But even those things are public knowledge, but maybe not being widely spread.
Definitely.
Right. I mean, you talked about earlier about like Starship.
Yeah.
Or going, the plans to go to Mars are already there.
Yeah.
They they have, things that are already developed and built that allow them to even have like a rest area between here and there.
Do you feel like he implemented an internet to have a way to have satellites to communicate?
I don't know. I mean, I would never be able to read into what the
Completely
actual motive is, but I mean, the way I see it is, it's everything that Elon Musk or any like big innovator has been involved with is usually to solve a simple problem.
So, do you understand the cell phone network? All right, so
as far as like repeater,
okay, so this is
whatnot.
My knowledge is about 15 years back, so it may be better now. 15 years ago, and this is probably the same. A GSM network, which was like Singular and Suncom at the time here. Now it's AT&T, T-Mobile. 6 miles. You have 6 miles from one tower to the next.
Okay.
A CDMA network, 12 to 13 miles, almost double. The distance that his satellites are.
The Starlink?
Yeah.
Skylink?
Yeah, Skylink or whatever it is. So the comparison is huge. Massive.
This is the amount of that are being sent up. So they're small drone.
I honestly don't know.
There's like 30,000 of them going up.
So here's my thing. If they can achieve fair speeds at that distance, thinking of things like a cell phone tower, which is the way I do.
You got to think though, if we're trying to communicate with things that are far away from us, we have to put it into perspective as far what we consider far.
Oh yeah. Far to us and far to is completely
1,000,000 miles.
Here's the thing, and here's where my head is at. These satellites are in space.
But space is infinite.
But the internet that we're receiving is coming through an atmosphere that has a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
That atmosphere isn't out there. So to go from there
like
to
a
here,
signal,
how much further can he go out? So where I'm going with this,
how fast can it travel?
And how much further can he put the next satellite? How much further can he put the next satellite? And how quick can he get 30 of them out there? How quick can he get 30,000 of them out there?
I don't think it necessarily matters.
I don't think men will be on Mars as quick as...
There's already things on Mars.
Well, so
we're gonna have Wi-Fi on Mars before men are on Mars. they're gonna. I mean, is that because that's not unreasonable
at all?
Because we have so we've sent things to Mars. We have rovers on Mars. Yeah, ExoMars, right?
Yeah,
so
he's on Mars.
So
here's the thing: we can only control it when it reaches. We have a window of time.
Absolutely.
Okay, narrow the window.
Narrow the window the window is based off of the planet alignment.
Okay, yeah, but the planet alignment relative to us.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So having like substations that align with. Hey,
okay,
I love talking about this stuff, but when it comes to
just
everything is conceptual from our conversation.
Definitely,
absolutely.
Well,
we want to. I believe
conceptually is where everything happens.
Absolutely.
Elon Musk didn't. I doubt one day that he was like.
Look at those. Look at your blueprint, right?
Yeah,
that started as a concept.
Elon Musk didn't rubber band a Hot Wheels to a bottle rocket and say, "I'm going to pull this shit off in 20 years."
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
But he believed in a concept.
I sincerely believe that he is building something
that we don't know about
as a test. It's a test. I think it's a test. And I only believe that because I know how networks work, latency and data. And we have a lot of people using these. If instead of 30,000 people using a tower, you had 12, the towers could be further apart.
Sure.
That shit's a lot to think about, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean...
And where's your starting point? I don't think it's how you get there. I think it's where you stop on the way. Mm. And if we had real time, if you could Skype call someone twice as far as the moon in 2 years, we would have made innovation that hasn't been made in...
I mean, I would not put it past to say, like, he's been, in this... He's been on this journey to get to Mars.
Yeah.
So, the things that are being done in parallel with his plan to get to Mars might very well impact. Now, the flamethrower, I don't necessarily...
He did that just... Honestly, he could be putting these things in the air just to make a big penis, and he would do it just because it'd be like, I did this, and there's nothing you can do about it.
A big middle finger.
Yeah, he would do
like
it.
That.
Yeah, I think a big Tesla logo. There's probably a big Tesla logo like somewhere that we don't even know. Probably like stamped on a planet somewhere. And he's just like, when you guys find this, you'll know I did this 20 years ago.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, I'm sure you're ready to wrap things up. We're like 3 hours in.
That was fun though.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
It's funny that you've watched Joe Rogan things, and I'm sure you've thought, man, 3 hours is a long time to podcast.
Yeah, that takes me like six settings. I'll watch half an hour.
We blew through this, dude.
Yeah, no, we did, and we probably didn't even get to all of this. So,
well, we'll do it again. I say that let's reach out to the Morgan Freeman voice guy, see if we can get on a phone call.
We'll see if I can do that.
If we could have an episode that was not about entrepreneurship, but just a side episode, I'm sure that people would follow that.
Yeah, I mean, it would. I can think of questions. Yeah. I have access to this guy, but there's things that I ask him, and there's things that I don't ask him on a work call.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but sure. I could think of couple questions that I
definitely
things that I think about all the time.
Again, Neil Tyson deGrasse,
right,
bro.
Yeah,
and everyone that's watched and followed us and came along, I really appreciate it, and we'll do it again. The next episode, I believe, is Real Technology is now doing. I think he goes as far as like home automation and stuff like that. I think he's.
You told me about.
Yeah, I think you did tell me about that. I believe that's the direction he's going in. So that'll be the next episode. Thanks everyone that's followed along this far. I know that we've probably lose audience along the way, and if you're watching this days from now, still thank you. I appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribe.
Follow this guy.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.